So what's going on, man? Let's look at the charts to see what's going on right now. We have a lot of news. We have a lot of things going on in the economy. We have the Fed meeting coming up in a couple of days. Gareth, enlighten us with that.
Yeah, so this is a huge week for markets overall, right? Like you said, Fed meeting on Wednesday. Thursday, we have Apple, Google, and Amazon all reporting earnings after the bell. And then Friday, we have the jobs data. So, I mean, this is one of those crazy weeks where it's going to get wild.
Is it priced in? Do you think it's going to be a sell the news event? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's tricky to know at this point because we still have another day and a half to go until we get that. We're selling off today, which is kind of a positive, actually. The more you sell off, the more likely the markets will snap back. So people essentially are taking profits right now. We've had a big run up in the equity markets, in the stock market, in crypto. And people are saying, wait, listen, I'm up X amount. Why don't I take some off the table? Because you have all these unforeseen possible negatives out there. For instance, Jerome Powell saying something that the market doesn't recognize. So I think the big question is watch what happens into Wednesday. If we rally back up, then I'd be bearish going into this.
What about with earnings and everything? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the charts on some of these stocks, and again, I can bring up a couple of them here, but let me show my chart here. But Apple reports obviously earnings, and to me, one of the negatives here is that Apple's had such a tremendous run, right? I mean, you've gone from $124 all the way up to a high on Friday of 147. We're backing off just a little, and look at where we are. We're kind of right at this crux, this cross section of major resistance between inflation, a slowing economy, issues in China. For me, I would expect them to maybe sell off. Maybe Apple stock sells off on earnings.
What are you looking for as support? 137-ish or lower?
Yeah, I would probably go towards something like this, where you take the same trend line here and stretch it up to this pivot low. So you're kind of looking at like 127, 128, somewhere in that vicinity. I don't think it'll drop that much on earnings. I mean, that would be a really horrendous miss if it did.
So let's look at Bitcoin real quick. So I'm looking at resistance to around 24, 25K. And if that breaks, I'm looking at about 30K. I do believe we're going to hit 30K before we pull back. But what are you looking at, Gareth?
Yeah, so what you do have, and you're correct, you have this kind of sideways. Now the one negative here is that we had this attempted breakout which occurred on a Sunday. Now, for everyone watching, never trust a crypto move that occurs on a weekend because you don't have volume there. You can see exactly what happened. Bitcoin had this nice run up, touched kind of 24,000. I agree. I think your next stop is right here. You have this pivot low right here and this pivot high. So that's right around 25,000. So that would be, if we continue up, that would be your resistance.
30K being major resistance, being the last low I called when we left the 69,000 level. I called 30K as a low. That's going to be hard to break.
Yeah, I mean, between these pivot lows over here, all this here, and then all this sideways chop right here, all of that is just so much major resistance. That will be an epically big resistance level for Bitcoin. And then I think you have to say the next run is probably in place for 100,000. And I think 100,000 to me is your next spot. And one of the things I'm looking at here is this trend line right here, right? So wherever this trend line is when Bitcoin gets up there, that to me would be the next resistance of the cycle, right? Connecting these high pivots here.
All right. So you're short-term bearish or mid-term bearish probably, yes?
Yeah, so just to go over kind of how I've positioned myself at this point is I still have a position long in Bitcoin, right? So the target on that is still 25,000 or so, this resistance level. That's in the money a little bit here, and there's just so many resistance levels on Solana right up here. Avalanche I put out as a sell short yesterday, and again, we're in the money slightly here off of this resistance area here. And then also Ethereum. I actually think that Ethereum very likely topped out when it topped this pivot here. And again, we're short on Ethereum, slightly in the money as well. Yeah, so ApeCoin, I mean, to me, it looks like it's kind of, so it looks like right over here. In fact, it looks like we can go from right over here and draw this trend line, right?
Yeah.
And look at where we are right now. So we're right into that level. So is it building a bull flag? That's the question, right? Is it you don't want to see it pull back too much because it would negate the bull flag. Right now, there's a possibility of that. Yeah, so Tesla hit some resistance on Friday, which again, it ran up so much, it was due for a pullback. So that was kind of, what to be expected. Now, if it has one more run, the $200 level is going to be a big level right here and these tops right here. On natural gas, it's a little bit below that now. Let me bring it up now here. But I continue to really like this chart. It's just so oversold. You have a mass exodus, right? So basically, when we were trading north of $8 to $10 per cubic foot or whatever they measure a natural gas in, you basically had a scenario where every institution thought this was a no-brainer trade. The gap would be amazing. I mean, if we rallied that much, that would be tremendous. I would even be happy for just a trade back here to around 360, this pivot low right here.
So when you look at stocks, when you look at Bitcoin, we'll talk about cryptocurrencies in a second, gold, oil, and so on. When do you think the market's going to start having when do you think there's going to be a trend change? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be in 6 months? Is it going to be next year? What do you think?
Yeah, so the big question I have, right, is and this is what everyone's been asking, is this a new bullish move in the market? Is there a new bull market on the S&P 500? I personally don't think so. And then the reason why it's not proven yet, and remember, everything we do is chart related, is that so far you have the high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. We haven't made a higher high yet. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a beautiful bear market rally.
And what about the dollar? The dollar might even go up right now, right? I thought it was bottoming out at some point, which means gold might go down.
Yep. So I'm in exactly that camp, is that I think there's very little downside on the dollar left here in the near term. And I think we're due for a bounce in the dollar, which also, as we know, is a negative for risk assets, right? It's a negative for the stock market. It might be a negative for crypto as well. So it also gives that basis for why I'm starting to nibble on some shorts.
So what about gold, though? What's your gold narrative right now?
Yeah, so gold to me is due for a pullback. I mean, this was just a tremendous move to the upside. I am not short gold because I love it in the midterm, and maybe short term it's overdone, might pull back here or here, but I'll be buying on dips. So basically, if I'm lucky enough to get back to around 1800 or 18 and a quarter, I will be loading up again. I did take my profits on my swing gold just because it got so extended. Yeah, so oil's starting to come back down, and really what we can see here is that you got this little potential bearish pattern. I still am in the camp that we're going to come down to about $65 a barrel on oil.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about cryptocurrencies. I wanted to talk about the XRP chart, and I wanted to talk to you about XRP in general. Got a couple of questions for you, Gareth.
Yeah, so XRP, I mean, just looking at the chart, right, we're stuck in this kind of wedge pattern where we haven't broken out yet. You can see we're hovering just underneath that. That's what you want to look for, all right? On a technical basis, this needs to get above this yellow line and stay above. You can see we kind of closed above here and then right back below and then hammer, and dropping. So that to me is the spot. And then same thing on the bottom. You don't want to see it break through this line down here. That would be a big negative.
Do you think XRP will win or lose?
Oh, man, I'm not sure, to be honest. The one thing I will say is that it's hard to imagine that the banks would sit by and allow XRP to kind of supplant their system that they have in place. To me, that's the biggest hurdle.
If they do win or so, though, and things go well, where do you see XRP reaching on a technical but also a fundamental basis?
Yeah, so I mean, if for some reason the judge does rule in the favor of XRP, you'll see an immediate massive reaction. And I do think that reaction could easily retest this $2 level up here. I mean, just that alone. I mean, now again, does it pull back off of that? Maybe, but you'll just have that immediate pop in it to the upside, and it could be huge.
Right. Awesome, man. Gareth, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to next time.
Thank you so much, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.